eternal oblivion always lurked hungrily for its prey, and there were no power strong enough to wrest it from its clutches, how empty and devoid of comfort would life be? That's some writing. Now that's incredible. Once again, humility, right? I could never write something like that. Kierkegaard's essentially stating there's meaning to life almost because there has to be. What would this life be if it were meaningless? So why pursue meaning though? What is it about meaning that makes it so special? Well, I've found in my own life and in the lives of the people that I work with that we can't escape our pain. It's a part of life. Meaning in our pain. Meaning because of what we have been through, not despite what we have been through, is what can truly help us reconcile this pain of this world that we all experience. It's to find meaning in the pain, not to avoid the pain. Carl Jung says, and Carl Jung, by the way, is incredible. Talk about a deep thinker. I can sometimes read pages of Carl Jung, then have to start over and chew on it for an hour just for one page. It's pretty intense, but one of the things, though, that I admire about Jung is that he can condense something so deep into one statement. He says that it is only the meaningful that sets us free. The pain of this world can feel like entrapment, but it's only finding the meaningful in our lives that can set us free. It's an act of faith that we are capable to take all the world can give us and still press on. And it's the story of us. It's the story of human beings. It's one of resilience. I'm just trying to figure out and take ideas from the great thinkers of the past to understand what truly makes someone resilient. And I really feel like it all goes back to this idea of finding meaning in our pain, which we are all capable of doing. Pursuing meaning is hard and it requires patience, but it is worth it, I promise you. I've never heard, by the way, of someone pursuing happiness or pleasure and feeling good about themselves. I say this to a lot of people I work with, that I've never seen anyone come in here into my office and say, Ron, I feel so great about myself. Oh yeah, what'd you do? I ate 2 boxes of donuts and drank an entire 6-pack of beer. Never heard that, never will. Because when we pursue that which is pleasurable to us, we find ourselves feeling miserable. But it's when we pursue that which is meaningful. And by the way, pursuing that which is meaningful is not quick. It's not easy. It takes a lot out of us. It demands a lot. But when has there ever been anything in our lives that isn't meaningful, that hasn't come at some deep cost? So I do believe that the pursuit of meaning will lead to happiness. But if you pursue happiness, and this is something Frankl talks about, if you pursue happiness, then you end up miserable. I have found too, in sitting and listening to people for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours, that even if it's just a quick, momentary, meaningful event, that can sustain them. That lasts. That is what helps them get through so many things in their life, versus something like a monetary gain or a possession that they've had throughout their whole life. So a quick, momentary, but deeply meaningful moment can sustain us, our souls, who we are, and can help boost that resilience longer than any material substance or possession that we could ever have. Going back to Carl Jung, he says that the least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. And I completely agree, because I've found people, when they can find meaning in their pain, then that can sustain them more and longer and stronger than any material item that they could ever obtain or achieve or possess. So very often our suffering from the past, by the way, can stay alive because we look in the wrong places. We look to the wrong sources for meaning, for comfort, momentary pleasures. We look to those. Social media acclaim, money, anything, food, alcohol, pornography, all of these things we look to for comfort, right? We're basing our decisions based on comfort, and that's the wrong thing to base our decisions off of. Because I've found that the more people do that, the more miserable they become. if they base instead their decisions off of what is truly meaningful, once again, that's not going to be easy or quick, but what can be truly meaningful in this moment? I found that people usually make it through and can heal from those pains or those demons of the past. It's only by experiencing these deeply meaningful moments or aspects of our life that we're able to overcome the pain that we've experienced so far and to not let it turn into long-term suffering. Okay, so Frankl talks about the three sources of this meaning. He talks about creative values, talks about experiential values, and he talks about attitudinal values. I'll go through each of those real quick, and then we'll finish up. In the first set of values, creative values, these are the things that I give. These are the things that I give to the world, or the things that I create. If I'm an artist, I find a lot of meaning in my work of art, my paintings, my colorings, my sketchings. If I'm a cook or a chef, I find a lot of meaning in cooking for people and providing that meal. These are the things. A musician, so these are the sources of meaning that a lot of the creative types will really find a lot of meaning in. The second set of values is experiential values. These are the things that I take in. These are the things that we experience, and this includes relationships, by the way. So if the creative type cooks a meal, then the experiential one, the one that's experiencing the meal with his or her friends, that brings a lot of meaning to them. Relationships, that's a huge part of this life. It's a huge part of the things that we experience that make us, that make life truly worth living. So you have creative values, you have experiential values as well, relationships, nature, going to a concert, going to a museum of art, experiencing good food. These are experiential values. The third set of values, and this is probably what Frankl really leans on the hardest to find true meaning in our life, is attitudinal values. Attitudinal values, you can think of it in this way, is that it's the stand that I make in the face of circumstances that can't change, in the face of everything going on. Auschwitz, a cancer diagnosis of yourself or of a loved one, a beloved pet dying, heaven forbid, a child passing away before a parent does. In the face of these things, what stand am I going to make? What attitude am I going to have in the face of this that's coming at me? And Frankl says that's a huge, if not the most profound and deepest source of meaning that we can get. And so this is what's interesting, is that we can't escape our responsibility to find meaning in our life. Because if we can't, even if we're terrible at art or music and we can't create anything, or maybe we're incapacitated in some way, maybe we have a physical disability and we can't experience things like others can, what attitude are we going to have in the face of those circumstances? If I can't create and experience things, I still have a choice of what attitude I will take. The attitude of taking on that responsibility, being responsible to having an appropriate attitude in the face of things you can't escape, is key. And I've seen so many people and been inspired by so many people who have done this. So as we're talking about attitudinal values, one of Viktor Frankl's most famous quotes that kind of sums up this theory is, he says that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's own attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. We all have a choice. I believe our happiness is actually more of a choice than we think, but it's not that we can just choose to be happy willy-nilly. Although to some extent, I think we can more than what we think we're able to. I think we can choose to be a little happier, and we'll get into that maybe later. But more so, choosing happiness, is a consequence of choosing to live meaningfully first. Happiness is a consequence of living meaningfully, and if we choose to live meaningfully over a long period of time, the result is a true deep happiness. To make meaningful choices are hardly ever going to be easy. They're never going to be quick, and they'll always demand something of us. But if we can make those choices, happiness is what follows. And I don't mean a momentary fleeting happiness. I mean a really deep, abiding, sustaining happiness. To live meaningfully is sometimes to choose pain rather than comfort. And I do believe, though, that if our lives are driven by meaning rather than by pleasure, then we can experience fulfillment, true deep fulfillment in our lives. I've seen this play out over and over again, not only in my own personal life, but in my professional life, that if we do not choose the meaningful pain now, then the needless suffering will choose us later. It will take us later. So you better choose meaningful pain now, or else needless suffering takes you later. We have no choice in the matter. Since pain cannot be avoided, we must go through it. And meaning is the way through that pain, by finding meaning in what we create, in what we experience, and in the attitude or the stand that we make in the face of life. Those are the things that help us to live truly, deeply meaningful and fulfilling lives. And it's the way to fulfill our truly divine potential that I really do believe is in all of us. Thanks for watching.